Hi, I'm Madison Torio, and a little over a month ago, I put out a second collection of paintings titled Wandering. Those paintings are now available as prints on my website, mtorioart.com. The concept behind Wandering is largely based around the feeling of self exploration and self discovery while also going back to your roots. I think you can learn a lot about yourself from going back to your foundation, whatever that might look like for you, and getting to experience things again through a different lens as time goes on and as you learn and experience more about the world. I think a lot of things that used to feel familiar can still have that sense of familiarity, but also can bring about so many new discoveries about yourself or the world. Wandering represents a very transitional time in my life where I felt very lost, but also was gaining a lot of new information and insight into my life and my relationships and myself. Each week, I've been sitting down to dive a little bit deeper into two of the paintings in the collection, share some of the inspiration or backstory or what that process looked like for me to paint each piece. And this week, I will be talking about the last two paintings in the collection, Telegraph Avenue and Exit 51st Street. Telegraph Ave is a callback to my childhood. I can recall countless days spent window shopping with my friends, boba in hand, feeling grown up without chaperones around. Back when the Chase Bank on the corner was an American Apparel and the thrift store next to Bare Basics was a Wet Seal. When life's biggest stressor was what we were wearing to the school dance on Friday. After getting laid off, I moved back to Berkeley and frequently found myself wandering Telegraph. Despite all the change, so much had stayed the same, and I was back to window shopping with 7 new boba shops to choose from. Telegraph will always be special to me, and this collection didn't feel complete without an ode to the Berkeley staple. Telegraph Avenue was actually the very last painting that I created for this collection. It was the first time that I had intentionally painted something to fill what felt like a gap or a hole in a collection, and with that came having a little bit more intense of a deadline, because usually I'll just paint a bunch of things for fun or for myself, which usually, this is my second collection, so I don't really have a usual yet, but in the past, it's been that I just painted things for fun or for myself, and after some time had passed, I kind of looked at all the things that I had created and saw what recurring themes or what pieces I liked best or what I felt looked best together aesthetically or conceptually. I think from the first several paintings that I created during this time, a pretty obvious theme was jumping out to me. When it came closer to being time to release the collection, I just felt like something about my hometown was missing, because I feel that moving back home and staying with my parents has had a huge role and impact over the last year of my life, and it felt incomplete to be missing something paying homage to that. So I actually did go to Telegraph Avenue specifically to take some reference photos for this painting. I didn't do the best job because the angle I wanted, I kind of had to stand in the middle of the street. And if you've ever been to Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley, you know that the drivers there are a little bit aggressive, and just there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of foot traffic, car traffic. So I kind of just had to cross the street and snap as many pictures as I could. And I didn't really try too hard to get the perfect angle. And I kind of wish I had, looking back on it, because I sort of had to finesse my reference photo a little bit and piece some things together. But I do love how the painting turned out regardless of how intentional I was with the reference photo. I feel like Telegraph is such a great metaphor for what I've been exploring through this theme in this collection. It is such a place that for me kind of represents an era of growing up and being a kid but feeling adult. I remember being in middle school and I'd go to Telegraph with some friends and we'd get bobas and we'd go to the shops and we'd walk around or we'd sit on campus, and it just was such a time where we got to hang out without parental supervision, but we were still 10, 11, 12 years old, still very much children, thinking that we had the whole world open to us because we had $5 in our backpack that we spent on our boba. Once I moved back home after being laid off from my teaching job and moving out of my apartment, I found myself wandering Telegraph Avenue a lot just because there's so many shops there. It's so easy to walk to. It's so much fun, and it's so lively, and it's great people watching. And I found myself just kind of wandering those same streets and thinking a lot about my childhood and being there with friends and how much has changed and how much has stayed the same. time. Moving back home, it's been really fun to kind of make new memories and also relish in the old ones. I painted Telegraph Avenue in about a week, I believe. It was the week leading up to my collection launch, and I'd kind of gone back and forth over whether I wanted to stress myself out and add this last piece to the collection. Ultimately, like 2 weeks before my collection was launching, I decided I did want to just go for it and do that. I painted this with gouache, so it was a lot smaller to work with. It dries a lot faster than oil paints, and it's just overall a lot easier to handle in a small period of time, especially when I gave myself a deadline that was a little bit difficult. I think what I love most about this painting is the lighting. I took the reference photo in the afternoon, which I feel like is just a fun time to be at Telegraph. A lot of the students are leaving class, and there's kind of more of a combination of like the high school students and the college students, and then just normal adult people walking around. And I feel like it's such a nice time of day because everyone's a little bit more chill. The work/school day is either over or coming to a close, maybe for some of the college kids, and it's just a fun, buzzy environment to be around. And the light that hits against the building and, pierce through the clouds, I just love that like angle of light where things are kind of starting to turn a little bit golden. I also like how it kind of makes the brick building look a little bit of a more like orangey color, which I feel like really complements the blue sky and all the dark bluish gray tones that are in the painting. As I've said before, I love a blue and orange color combination, so I feel like this painting also really like scratches that itch for me. But I pretty much finished this painting the week before I was launching. I think it was a Thursday. I finished it around 3 p.m. and the print place that I go to closes at 4. I let it dry for a little bit, ran myself down to the print shop and had my guy scan my last few paintings, and he told me he could have them ready by the next week, which was perfect because that was when I wanted to launch. So I needed to get those scans up on my website ASAP, update everything, order some test samples. It's definitely the quickest turnaround I've ever had with painting a project. So it was kind of fun and exhilarating in a way, but I also don't want to make a habit of stressing myself out like that because it's not fun. I feel like painting something on a deadline really taught me to be okay with good enough. And I think I've talked about this a few times, but I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. Sometimes it can be good to remind myself that things don't have to be like perfect, and that some of the flaws or things that I see as flaws are actually what gives a painting character and makes it more interesting and not looking like AI. I definitely think that giving myself that challenge of painting something quickly helped me to kind of embrace some of the flaws or things that might feel a little bit imperfect. Many Berkeley locals are familiar with the 51st Street exit and the sigh of relief it may bring after sitting in traffic on 880, a sign that you're almost home. With each streetlight passed getting you closer, exit 51st Street represents the feeling of coming home after a long drive or journey. Whether it's the drive from Mountain View to Berkeley or the journey from paychecks to severance checks, there's no greater privilege than knowing you can always go home. Exit 51st Street was another one of those like text when you're home that kind of came from my so-called vault. I had painted it over a year ago. I remember I was heading home and it was a really like misty night, and so the glow coming off of the streetlights looked really cool, and I wanted to see if I could recreate that in a painting, but at the time I had not yet taken oil painting classes and I was still primarily using watercolor and gouache, and I just didn't really in my head know how to execute that kind of like glow and light with water-based paints. So I thought it could be a fun challenge for myself to sit down and try to do that. And I remember it being really frustrating. I was really trying to give like more of like a soft glow to the streetlights and it just wasn't turning out right. So then I kind of took a risk and tried like making it a little more spiky, kind of like how you might see lights if you had like astigmatism or something, which I do have slightly, but I thought it could just be kind of fun to have it be like that more like sharp glow. I would be curious to try painting that same reference photo but with oil paints now, knowing what I know about how to blend and how to make things kind of look like that. I think that could be a fun challenge in the future. I do think the painting gives off such like a nice misty effect. I tried to kind of mute everything except for the street lights, and I think it creates a really fun contrast between the two. I think this painting took me a couple weeks to try and get down, which at the time felt like a long time because like I said, I've been working with water-based paints, and so most of my paintings up to that point I had just done in one sitting or maybe a couple sittings, but that was definitely the one that I struggled with the most and added a lot of layers to and tried to get to look a certain way, and it ended up sort of taking a life on its own, and I really love how it ended up turning out. I feel like I learned a lot about the limitations of gouache from this painting, at least the limitations that I've experienced, and I'm not the most experienced with any medium, let alone gouache or oil paint. I think this painting is largely what drove me to sign up for oil painting classes, because I just realized that you couldn't really blend things quite the way that I wanted to in my head, and it just went too easily into like getting all the colors muddied when trying to blend and when trying to make something glow. It just wasn't working out quite the way I was envisioning. I do wonder, now that I have more knowledge on color mixing, if that would influence my ability to paint something glowy in the future with gouache paints, but I do really want to try with oil paints because I feel like conceptually I know how I would do it, and I'm curious to try. With these two paintings, I went a little bit more literal with their names. I mean, Telegraph Avenue was just the name of the street that I was painting, and then Exit 51st Street is the name of the exit that I take to get home. Sometimes I kept these a little bit more literal because I wanted them to obviously be about my hometown and about coming home or getting home or living at home and this phase and era of my life. I think I also associate this exit with coming home from a little bit of a further distance. It's typically my exit home from like an hour away, so I've been on an hour-long drive and I'm just like so excited to be home, or if I've been on a road trip or something and this is my exit to take home. It really just feels like such an indicator that I'm like at that final stretch and that I'm almost home. Getting off the freeway and just feeling like, okay, just a little bit more until I can be at home in my bed where I want to be. It is kind of interesting to talk about these two paintings together because one was painted before taking oil painting classes and one was painted after, and I feel like a little bit you can see the difference in my techniques or my use of color, and it's just really fun to look at them side by side and to do a little bit of compare and contrasting. They've also visually got such like similar compositions, but such different color schemes, and I think that's also really fun to look at side by side. Kind of similar to Blurred Roads and Text When You're Home. I feel like they are painted at different times of day, but having that kind of like golden hour, almost golden hour glow to Telegraph Avenue versus that like nighttime, misty, a little bit foggy, darker mood for Exit 51st Street. I feel like they're very fun to have side by side. I feel like they create a nice contrast with each other, a contrast and a complement. Because these are my two paintings that I am kind of using to pay homage to my hometown, I've decided to pair these two paintings in another bundle that is now available on my site. I'm I'm titling it the Berkeley Bundle for obvious reasons. So if you have any affiliation with Berkeley, or you've admired Berkeley from afar, or you just like these paintings and you think that they're fun and cool and you want a little bit of a discount because you want both of them, be sure to check out the Berkeley Bundle on my website, mtorioart.com, available now. I really love these paintings and I feel that they have been the perfect complement to the collection. I feel like they've really completed it and brought what I felt was missing, and brought just a little bit of that like hometown nostalgia and piece of my childhood and adulthood into the collection that is so explorative of everything I've been contemplating for the last year and all the life experiences that I've had up to this point that have led me to be where I am today. I hope you've enjoyed hearing me talk about each of these paintings in depth. If you haven't seen my other videos about each of the 8 paintings in this collection, feel free to check them out. I've listed them all in a playlist for easy access. I love this collection so much, and it's been so much fun to talk about each painting a little bit more in depth and to share some of the inspiration, backstory, experience, process in painting these and curating a collection in general. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!